Shen Lingshan thought I was deeply in love with him, hopelessly devoted and unable to free myself. Knowing he liked my sister who had entered the palace. On our wedding night, he wanted to remain chaste. For this, I bore the reputation of being a shrew, and I could endure it. Later, he used my name to send gifts to my sister who had already become a consort, and the two of them made eyes at each other right in front of me. I could still endure it. But in reality, I just couldn't be bothered to deal with them. When my husband called out my sister's name while drunk, to survive, I knew his life could no longer be spared. Me husband's white moonlight was my sister. Unfortunately, my sister had grand ambitions and looked down on Shen Lingshan. This mere young lord 5 years ago. She entered the palace and was selected as a lady, in waiting, and now word had spread that she was pregnant. A maid outside the door reported that Shen Lingshan was drunk. I put down the account book, hid my impatient mood, furrowed my brows, put on a worried expression, and resignedly got up. Before I even reached the corridor, I heard Shen Lingshan's mournful cries. "Ruyuan, you finally got what you wished for. Why? I liked you so much." My face turned pale from fright. After collecting myself, I shot a sharp glare at the 4 maids who came with me and the people inside the room. "The young lord is drunk. Hurry and help him into the courtyard. If I find out anyone's been gossiping, don't blame me for being unkind." Everyone present were house-born servants, so they naturally knew what to say and what not to say. They swiftly carried Shen Lingshan into the room. After tidying up, Liu Yun thoughtfully closed the door, leaving just me and Shen Lingshan alone. Liu Yun was given to me by my mother-in-law when I entered the household. In reality, her deed of servitude wasn't in my hands. I withdrew my gaze and looked at Shen Lingshan, who had been drunkenly confessing his feelings, murderous intent flashing in my eyes. Yet my hands gently picked up a damp cloth, tenderly wiping him down. "Husband, why won't you look at me? Sister is now consort Li, so please stop thinking about her, won't you?" The more I spoke, the more aggrieved I felt, and tears fell down. Only after sensing the shadow behind the window disappear did I sob for a while, then wiped away my tears. Forcing myself to stay awake, I looked through the account books until dawn. Knowing it was time, I came to the bedside and undid all of Shen Lingshan's clothes, leaving only his underwear. Then I undid my own clothes until only the inner garment remained, and lay down by his bed. In the morning, Shen Lingshan found himself disheveled, with me lying beside him, mistakenly thinking we had slept together. He angrily shoved me off the bed. "Lu Ruyi, you are shameless. Taking advantage of me being drunk to climb into my bed. Are you that desperate for a man?" I was already exhausted, and fell asleep the moment I touched the bed. From such a sudden push, blood immediately seeped from my forehead. Tears flowed down from the pain. "We are husband and wife. What is wrong with sleeping in the same bed? Back then, it was clearly you who asked my father for my hand in marriage, so why won't you even enter my room now?" After saying that, I sobbed and started crying. "On our wedding day, I already told you." Shen Lingshan stopped here and said no more. "But I didn't want to let him have his way. I know you are in love with my sister, but after all these years, don't you have even a little bit of feelings for me?" Shen Lingshan blurted out. "No, stop your wishful thinking. No one can replace. From now on, don't ever let me hear you mention her." Shen Lingshan was still such a coward, not even daring to mention my sister's name. Well, coveting the emperor's woman, having his entire clan executed wouldn't be too harsh. Otherwise, how else could I have married him? Liu Yan pushed open the door and walked in. Only then did we fall silent. I quietly put on my clothes, and before I could even do my makeup, Shen Lingshan hastily threw on his clothes and left. Looking through the mirror at Liu Yan with her head lowered. Doing my makeup, I couldn't help but feel disappointed. Me mother-in-law placed her by my side precisely to report on matters between me and Shen Lingshan at all times. Last night, Shen Lingshan got drunk and called out my sister's name. If my mother-in-law knew about this, she would surely have sent someone to wait at the door early on. But now, Shen Lingshan has already been gone for quite a while. There has been no movement from the old madam's side, which means Lu Yun concealed the matter of Shen Lingshan liking my sister. The act I put on last night was all for nothing. Fortunately, I still had a trick up my sleeve. Looking at my forehead still oozing blood in the mirror, a plan came to mind. "Madam, would you like to cover up the wound on your forehead?" Liyun said as she combed my hair, trying to hide the wound on my forehead. I furrowed my brows, which tugged at the wound. Liyun realized she had overstepped and knelt down in alarm. "Madam, this servant knows her mistake." I smiled and helped her up. "Mid is fine. Speaking of which, you are of age now. How about I arrange a marriage for you?" Liyun kowtowed in panic. "This servant only wishes to stay by Madam's side and serve Madam." I didn't push it and never brought it up again. During the meal, my mother-in-law learned that Shen Lingshan had gotten drunk last night. As for the specifics, she didn't know. Only that I had quarreled with Shen Lingshan this morning. She couldn't help but ask. "Lingshan got drunk last night and left looking displeased this morning. Did you two have a falling out?" Me mother-in-law didn't like me, thinking I was a seductress. Her tone couldn't help but carry a hint of reproach. Couples quarrel at the head of the bed and make up at the foot. Back then, Lingshan nearly knelt himself to death in the ancestral hall to marry you. Even after 5 years of you bearing no children, he still refuses to take a concubine. Whatever it is, you should talk it out with him properly. Hearing this, all my grievances welled up, and I burst into tears. "Mother, I know I am just a concubine's daughter who married up into the Marquise's manor, and I should be content. But I feel so wronged. My husband, he actually never liked me. The one he likes is my elder sister." As I spoke, I took out a handkerchief to wipe my tears, inadvertently revealing the wound on my forehead. 5 years, he has never touched me. Back then, it was clearly him who personally asked to marry me. I wholeheartedly married into this family. Yet this is how it turned out. As I spoke, feeling too embarrassed, I turned my face away. Yesterday he got drunk. I took care of him all night. But just because I lay beside him and fell asleep, he actually cursed me for being shameless. He even hurt me. All these years of caring for him, yet he never liked me even a little bit. As I spoke, I covered my chest, sobbing and whimpering. My mother-in-law didn't know the hidden reason behind why Shen Lingshan wanted to marry me back then. Now hearing me say all this, for a moment, she seemed as if struck by lightning. "How could this be? Rui, you mustn't talk nonsense and let this spread. That is a matter of losing one's head." As if suddenly remembering something, she said, "Back then Lingshan, for your sake, personally went to Mount Fahua, taking 3 steps and 1 kowtow to obtain a Buddhist bead bracelet for you. How can you say he doesn't like you?" I smiled bitterly, raised my hand and took the bracelet off to show my mother-in-law. "Is this what you are talking about, mother? Look carefully at this bracelet. This is just an ordinary bracelet that can be bought for 10 wen at the foot of Mount Fahua. The bracelet, my husband obtained by taking 3 steps and 1 kowtow, is now with my elder sister." My mother-in-law tremblingly took the bracelet, and indeed found that this bracelet was of ordinary craftsmanship, and wasn't made of any precious wood. If you don't pay close attention on normal days, you really could mix them up. Mother-in-law quickly calmed down, stared into my eyes, and asked what exactly was going on. There is really not much to say. Back then, Shen Lingshan fell in love with my sister at first sight, while burning incense at Fahua Temple. Just before Shen Lingshan came to propose, news of the palace selection came out. Originally, because of Shen Lingshan, Father had already planned to have me take her place for the selection. I just didn't expect Sister would persuade Father. Even if she wasn't selected, Shen Lingshan would still be there as a backup. And so, Sister became the current consort Li. since word had already spread that Shen Lingshan wanted to marry a daughter of the Liu family to protect sister's reputation. Shen Lingshan had no choice but to marry me, for a tall, handsome, wealthy, and powerful heir to a marquise household, while I was just a lowly concubine-born daughter. Naturally, I agreed to this marriage, even though on our wedding night, Shen Lingshan said that from beginning to end, the only one he loved was sister. Even to preserve his chastity, he used me as an excuse. I became known as a famous shrew in the capital. My reputation ruined because of it, but I didn't care. I also once tried to warm Shen Lingshan's heart, but sadly after 5 years, it was ultimately just my wishful thinking. I figured without my husband's love, having wealth and glory would still be fine. But yesterday, Shen Lingshan got drunk because sister was pregnant, loudly called out sister's name, and even confessed his feelings. Coveting the emperor's woman. One wrong move and the entire family could end up executed. I knew things couldn't go on like this. I briefly explained everything to my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law obviously still needed to calm down. I wiped my tears and withdrew gracefully. Shen Lingshan returned from his duties, with Liu Yun trotting behind him. Obviously, Liu Yun had already told Shen Lingshan about me complaining to mother-in-law. Fortunately, I had intentionally sent everyone away at the time, so she didn't know what I actually said to mother-in-law. Liu Yun lowered her head guiltily when she saw me, but when she looked at Shen Lingshan, the adoration in her eyes was crystal clear to me. I understood. This was yet another fool blinded by love. I didn't mind her admiring Shen Lingshan, but harming my interests for her own selfish desires was unacceptable. No one could. Why did you say those things to mother? I can give you everything except love. You are just a concubine's daughter. What more could you want marrying into the marquise's household? What exactly do you want? What do I want? Of course I want you dead. Once you are dead, no one will investigate which Miss Liu the marquise's heir actually loves. Me sister in the palace will also be safe, and my position as the marquise's wife will be more secure. No more daily worries. I hid my killing intent toward him and looked up with eyes full of love. Husband. I wanted to say something sweet to fool him, but unfortunately I was interrupted before I could. I don't care what you want to do, but I am warning you. If her matter gets out, it won't be good for you, for me, or even for her. After saying that, he flung his sleeves and left. Liu Yun watched his departing figure, then knelt before me. I wiped my tears dry and looked at her coldly. She really had no idea what she was talking about. At noon, my mother-in-law clearly still didn't want to face this reality and had some doubts about my words. I wasn't discouraged after all. There were still many days ahead. At the very least, I need to leave an heir for the Marquis manor. The Marquis still has other children after all. Once I have a child to rely on, Shen Lingshan will have no more value to exploit. When my mother-in-law learned that I wanted to take a concubine into the manor, she looked at me with great surprise. After all, my reputation as a shrew was quite famous in the capital. Now that I was voluntarily bringing someone into the manor, how could she not find it strange? Why did you suddenly think of taking a concubine? I smiled bitterly and picked up my handkerchief to symbolically dab at non-existent tears. It has been 5 years, and I am still not in the young lord's heart. Yet, I still bear the title of a shrew. Thinking about it, what a loss. I twisted my handkerchief as if in a fit of pique. If it could make the young lord fall for someone else, it wouldn't be a bad thing. I smiled bitterly and picked up my tea. Me mother-in-law's expression stiffened. Then she nodded. As for the candidate, do you have anyone in mind? I pretended to think and turned to look at the maids behind me. Liu Yun's hands were tightly clenched, trembling slightly. I smiled and raised my hand, slowly moving it toward her, paused for a beat, then pointed at Shayun beside her. Let it be Shayun then. When she first entered the manor, there was the intention of elevating her status. But the young lord never agreed, and she was kept waiting for nothing. Xiaoyun grew up with me since childhood. I asked her before, and no, she doesn't love the young lord. Nor does she have anyone she likes. Most importantly, she is very loyal to me. As a candidate for Shen Lingshan's concubine, she is quite suitable, mother-in-law carefully looked Xiaoyun over plump cheeks, curvy figure, looking very easy to bear children. She nodded with satisfaction, and when withdrawing her gaze, took an extra glance at Liu Yun. I knew mother-in-law was thinking of Liu Yun, that servant who betrayed her master. That evening, when Shen Lingshan learned about taking a concubine, he pulled me along to mother's place, still using me as an excuse. Mother, I told you long ago. I swore to spend this life with her alone as a pair. I won't take another woman. Shen Lingshan looked at me, his tone firm. Anyone who didn't know the inside story would probably really think he was deeply in love with me. But I knew. The person he made that vow to was someone else. Liu Yun was detained this afternoon for breaking mother-in-law's glazed cup. I knew this was just a passable excuse. By now, mother-in-law must have already learned what Shen Lingshan had done for my sister. You two have been married for 5 years now, without even a single child. Now that Rui has agreed to help you take a concubine, what are you dissatisfied about? If you truly care for Rui, then hurry up and have a child or two, so Rui doesn't have to bear the reputation of being a shrew. Shen Lingshan was left speechless by mother-in-law's retort, and looked at me again. Rui, do you really want to help me take a concubine? I lowered my head, stammering softly, yet making my meaning perfectly clear. Husband, the Marquise's household cannot be without an heir. Just follow mother's arrangements. My mother-in-law looked at me like this, frustrated at my lack of backbone, yet also feeling somewhat guilty. She had always thought I was a seductive vixen who bewitched her son, resulting in the Marquise's household having no heir to this day, never realizing I was merely a shield for my sister. She waved her hand at me, signaling me to leave. I looked at Shen Lingshan with worry. Though my heart was already blooming with joy, I had thought that with my mother-in-law stepping in, Shen Lingshan would surely stay the night at Xiaoyun's place. But unexpectedly, after Shen Lingshan left my mother-in-law's quarters, he went straight to lock himself in the study. I couldn't help but wonder, could it be that he can't perform? Otherwise, how could a normal man keep holding back like this? Even just from suppressing it, he'd probably develop problems. No, if he really has a problem, I need to think carefully about what to do going forward. After that day, I gathered 8 more beauties for Shen Lingshan. 5 of them I specifically found based on my sister's appearance, demeanor, and temperament. When Shen Lingshan tried to refuse, I brought up my mother-in-law. He didn't fall for the finding substitutes resembling his beloved approach at all. On the contrary, he utterly despised those 5 who resembled my sister, treating them even worse than the others. Although there wasn't much effect on Shen Lingshan's end, my reputation as a jealous shrew outside had improved quite a bit. Just when I thought this situation would drag on for a long time, a turning point suddenly arrived. Shen Lingshan came back drunk from outside for the first time ever. Only upon asking did I learn he had gotten this drunk drinking with people from the Imperial Medical Bureau. For a moment I thought of my sister in the palace, then shook my head to shake away these wild thoughts. Madame Concubine Fang intercepted him. I heard she called for water 3 times. I smiled with satisfaction. As long as he could get things done, that was good enough. The next day, a commotion broke out at Concubine Fang's place. Most notably, Shen Lingshan was smashing things and cursing by himself. Only after venting his anger did he leave. That evening, Shen Lingshan came back drunk again. This time his personal servant guarded him, not letting any concubine get close. After learning this, I deliberately sent someone to call the servant away. Xiaoyun slipped away after succeeding. When I had someone clean up the aftermath, I discovered the concubines from the other courtyards hadn't given up. Even taking advantage of this opportunity, one concubine had already played the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind, and was doing the deed with Shen Lingshan. After learning this, I clicked my tongue lightly. After all, she wasn't from a prestigious family, far too lacking in propriety. I pretended not to know about this matter. Who knew, when I woke up, the maidservant reported that a total of 3 concubines had gone in last night. The ivory comb in my hand slipped and fell onto my lap. Speak of the devil. Shen Lingshan arrived with his legs trembling, barely able to walk straight. Seeing me, he burst into a torrent of curses. Lu Ruyi, what kind of matriarch are you? You can't even manage the back courtyard. If those women keep being so insolent, don't blame me for having them beaten to death. I lowered my head in silence, desperately pressing my lips together, afraid I'd laugh out loud. Shen Lingshan saw my slightly trembling body, let out a cold snort, and left while holding his waist. After confirming he was gone, I couldn't hold back anymore and burst out laughing. Perhaps because those concubines had played too rough yesterday. Shen Lingshan didn't get drunk again. At noon, mother-in-law invited us as a couple to dine with her. Setting down her chopsticks, mother-in-law spoke. Lingshan, didn't you say before that you wanted to go to the battlefield? The Marquis and I have already discussed it. In 3 months, you can set off. No matter how slow Shen Lingshan was, he knew his mother had probably discovered something. He looked behind me, and sure enough, Liu Yun was nowhere to be found. Still wanting to make a desperate struggle, he fell to his knees with a thud. Mother, your son doesn't want to go to the battlefield. Everything's fine. Why would you suddenly think of? Mother-in-law let out a cold snort, and all the servants around withdrew. Everything's fine. What is fine? She looked at Shen Lingshan with disappointment, pulled out a thick stack of papers from her sleeve, and threw them at him. How did I give birth to something like you? Sending the Marquis Manor's rare medicinal herbs to the imperial physicians was one thing. Now you even dare to bribe the palace eunuchs. Are you really not afraid of being found out and bringing ruin to the Marquis Manor? I picked them up curiously, and what I saw was truly jaw-dropping. In the 5 years since their marriage, Shen Lingshan had never forgotten to support his sister. Especially recently when news spread that his sister was pregnant, the expenses flowed like water. Shen Lingshan getting drunk a couple of days ago was probably to build connections with people from the Imperial Medical Bureau. Rest assured, mother. I've been sending all these things through Rui's hands. If outsiders find out, they'll only praise the deep sisterly bond between Rui and Ruiyuan. I smiled bitterly, bursting his wishful thinking. Husband, the Marquis Manor is loyal only to His Majesty. If you go through all this trouble and someone with ulterior motives uses it against us, the Marquis Manor might be suspected of taking sides. Moreover, now that your sister is already pregnant, if she gives birth to a prince, the Marquis Manor might. My mother-in-law's previously hesitant heart immediately became resolute. Ruyi is right. Say no more. Once your father makes the arrangements over there, you'll go. Shen Lingshan suddenly thought of something. Holding her head, she gave further instructions. Tomorrow go find the imperial physician, and say I am ill and want to be examined. Also have him check Rui's pulse while he is at it. So we'll have an explanation ready if anyone asks. I stepped forward and massaged my mother-in-law's forehead. Mother, have him examine my husband too. My mother-in-law recalled that Shen Lingshan's gait had been a bit awkward when he came over just now, and nodded in agreement. Shen Lingshan stood up reluctantly, but accidentally twisted his waist, and his hiss of pain caught his mother-in-law's attention. Mother-in-law didn't know what happened yesterday, and just assumed he had neglected his own health to entertain the people from the Imperial Medical Bureau. She disliked Lu Ruyuan even more in her heart. Compared to Lu Ruyuan, who was a gold digger, looked down on Shen Lingshan, and had put the Marquise's mansion in such hot water. I, the obedient and docile daughter-in-law who was deeply devoted to Shen Lingshan, immediately stood out in contrast. Even that little bit of prejudice in her heart about me being a concubine-born daughter vanished into thin air. Shen Lingshan didn't know his mother's thoughts and left the house feeling restless and irritated. When he came back again, he was dead drunk. It is not scarcity but inequality that breeds resentment. There were still 4 concubines in the household who hadn't been favored. After seeing what happened to the other concubines the past 2 days, they couldn't help but get ideas of their own. After all, besides raging impotently, the young lord couldn't do anything to them anyway. But if they could give birth to a child or two, they would be able to secure their place in the Marquise's mansion in the future. Quite a few of them shared this thought. And so, that night, Shen Lingshan had yet another sleepless night. Madam, all 4 concubines have already gone in. If this keeps up, the young lord won't have any problems. I combed my hair in front of the mirror. When I woke up, I found out that the concubines had gone too wild yesterday, and Shen Lingshan actually couldn't even get out of bed. I was startled and hurriedly got dressed. Shen Lingshan better not have been played to death. But it seems like dying now wouldn't matter anyway. My movements putting on clothes became slower and slower. I arrived fashionably late to Shen Lingshan's study. As soon as I entered and looked over, several concubines were kneeling on the ground, and Shen Lingshan's face was deathly pale, looking exactly like he'd been drained of all his vitality. What are you standing there for? Drag them out. Just say their hands weren't clean. Give them a beating with the paddle, then sell them off. Young master, spare us. This concubine knows she was wrong. Madam, save us. After all, I was the one who brought them into the manor, so I felt somewhat reluctant. I raised my head and was about to speak when I saw Shen Lingshan's gaze, that looked like he wanted to slice me into 1,000 pieces. You venomous woman, she was right after all. You are the most honey-mouthed and dagger-hearted, vicious to the core. Shen Lingshan lost all his composure, and the mask he'd maintained in front of me was completely torn off. Now he looked like an evil ghost crawling out of hell, quite terrifying to behold. I caught a glimpse of someone coming from the corner of my eye, and immediately covered my eyes with a handkerchief. Husband, how can you say this about me? 5 years of marriage, can you really not feel how I've treated you? Prejudice in one's heart is like a mountain. No matter how you try, you can't move it. Fortunately, I didn't care about Shen Lingshan. Lingshan, what are you doing, mother? In-law hurried over, interrupting Shen Lingshan's words, and when she saw his appearance clearly, she was also startled. How did you turn into this state overnight? The household physician had already examined him. When mother-in-law asked, it was somewhat difficult to speak of. The young lord used potent aphrodisiacs for bedroom matters. By the looks of it, he has been using many different kinds recently. His body is weak now and needs proper recuperation. His bedroom activities may be hindered in the future. Mother-in-law saw off the household physician, then sent someone to summon the imperial physician. Fortunately, the silver and medicinal herbs Shen Lingshan spent over the years weren't wasted. The imperial physician arrived quickly. The diagnosis was similar to the household physician's, however. The imperial physician was indeed more skilled and gave a prescription to nourish his body. Perhaps he could recover. Mother-in-law thanked him profusely and saw him off, then looked at the 4 concubines with some difficulty. Mother, it is all your daughter-in-law's fault for not choosing the right people. However, since my husband's body is like this now, please wait a while, mother. If any of the 4 concubines are pregnant, please let them give birth first before making any decisions. Mother-in-law was quite pleased with my magnanimity. Disregarding Shen Lingshan's objections, she agreed to my request. Ruyi, this has been hard on you. Lingshan just hasn't realized how good you are. I believe he'll come around eventually. Mother-in-law glanced at Shen Lingshan again. Her eyes mixed with heartache and suspicion. I don't care whether this incident was an accident or you intentionally let it happen. In 3 months, even if you are bedridden, I am sending you away. Shen Lingshan looked at mother-in-law in disbelief. Don't look at me like that. The position of imperial guard was also because of her. wasn't it? Shen Lingshan lowered his head after being called out on what was on his mind. What else could Aunt not understand now? I was wondering why someone as proud and arrogant as you would take interest in this position. Before, when there were connections for promotion and transfer, you weren't willing either. You truly are infatuated, giving up your future for her. You don't even care about the lives of everyone in the Marquise's residence. You are really something. Mother-in-law didn't want to look at her disappointing son. No, she was already convinced that Shen Lingshan deliberately tormented his own body, because he didn't want to leave. Otherwise it would be too much of a coincidence. They just talked about it yesterday, and today he fell ill. Her hatred for Lu Ruyuan made her teeth itch. During the time Shen Lingshan was recuperating, rumors spread throughout the capital that he was impotent and could only perform sexually by using potent aphrodisiacs. Those who could make connections immediately thought, I hadn't conceived in 5 years. Could it be that Shen Lingshan couldn't perform? Look, he ruined his body just to get 3 concubines pregnant, showing how difficult it was for Shen Lingshan to produce heirs. I was very satisfied with this rumor. It wasn't in vain that I hired that loose-lipped doctor holding the medicine, seeing Shen Lingshan's sour face as if everyone owed him money. My mood wasn't affected at all. But his next words made my face darken. He was actually still thinking about sister. I think there is a sapphire gilt butterfly hairpin in your dowry that is quite nice. Consort Li is feeling bored in the palace. Why don't you go keep her company and chat? I turned my head away, afraid that if I looked one more second, I wouldn't be able to resist slamming the bowl in my hand onto his face. If it weren't for my mother-in-law's request, I wouldn't have come at all. Husband, 3 concubines in the manor have already been confirmed pregnant. I am afraid I don't have time. I set down the bowl and left with these words. Husband, just focus on recovering. Don't think about other things. Leaving Shen Lingshan alone in the room to digest this news. As soon as I stepped out the door, a maidservant hurriedly knelt down. Madam, news came from the palace. Consort Li fell in the imperial garden, and the imperial heir in her womb is gone. Shen Lingshan was after all a martial artist with remarkable hearing. Upon hearing this news, he disregarded his still somewhat weakened body, got up, and came out leaning on a manservant. I am asking you, what did you just say? I secretly rolled my eyes. Even I, her younger sister, am not worried. What are you, her brother-in-law, getting so worked up about? I wasn't surprised my sister ended up like this. After all, ever since she got pregnant, she'd been showing off everywhere, as if she wanted the whole world to know she was with child. I really don't know how she survived these 5 years in the palace when she doesn't even know how to keep a low profile and hide her edge. Even if she were abandoned by the emperor and banished to the cold palace, I wouldn't be surprised. I just hope my sister doesn't drag me down with her. After having the maidservant repeat it again, Shen Lingshan immediately got dressed and dragged me to the palace to visit Lu Ruyuan. Men are forbidden from entering the inner palace. But Shen Lingshan was different. He was an imperial guard who could walk through the inner palace to ensure its safety. The 2 of us went in together. When Lu Ruyuan saw Shen Lingshan, her tears immediately fell. Shen Lingshan stepped forward with heartache and knelt on the ground. This subject, and Ruyi learned of your ladyship's miscarriage, and sought out the finest fox fur and remedies for recuperation. Please don't be sad, your ladyship. I knelt on the ground, feeling an intense gaze fall upon me. Looking up, I found Lu Ruyuan staring at me with resentful eyes. I was confused, wondering what on earth I had done to make her hate me so much. How thoughtful of you, brother-in-law. I heard the 3 concubines in your household are pregnant. Congratulations are in order for little sister too. Although Lu Ruyuan said, congratulations, I could sense her sarcasm and smugness. I didn't know what she was so smug about. This situation was something I had asked for myself. She had just lost her child. If anyone should be smug, it should be me. It was all an accident. You know, there is only one person in my heart. Shen Lingshan spoke with tender affection, his eyes fixed directly on Lu Ruyuan across from him. Lu Ruyuan basked in Shen Lingshan's loving gaze, especially seeing me kneeling on the ground looking forlorn. It delighted her. In my past life, because she was betrothed to Shen Lingshan, I took her place to enter the palace and eventually became the Empress Dowager. Yet she clearly had status, talent, and looks, everything presentable, and she never even bothered to put me, this concubine's daughter, in her eyes. Yet she was forever overshadowed by this concubine's daughter, and she refused to accept it. Fortunately, heaven gave her a chance to choose. She thought Lu Ruyi could become Empress Dowager. She, Lu Ruyuan, could too. She could even do better. Your Highness, news came from Consort Mei. She has been diagnosed with pregnancy, and she has already been placed in the Empress's palace. The palace maid's words made Lu Ruyuan's expression change. Shen Lingshan wanted to ask, but mindful of propriety between men and women, he turned his head toward me, wanting me to inquire. I couldn't be bothered with him, lowering my head to continue being heartbroken. It was about time. Lu Ruyuan saw us out. I didn't know what had happened to my sister. Still thinking about how to embellish the story for my mother-in-law when I got back, about how my husband Shen Lingshan was infatuated with my sister, and with Consort Li in the palace. Shayun was already pregnant now, and keeping Shen Lingshan in the manor was always a hidden danger. Better to send him to the battlefield as mother-in-law planned. Maybe he could even earn me a noble title. If he accidentally died on the battlefield, he could at least get a good reputation for dying for his country. Then I could adopt one of the concubine's children, raise them carefully, and eventually become an old titled lady, enjoying a lifetime of wealth and glory. That wouldn't be bad either. My plans were quite beautiful, but man proposes and heaven disposes. Lu Ruyuan got into trouble in the palace. I heard she drugged the emperor, causing his majesty to fall ill. As for the specific situation, I haven't found out yet. A thought suddenly struck me. Shen Lingshan had secretly taken medicinal herbs from the storehouse to help Lu Ruyuan nourish her body. Could it be that the drug given to the emperor was this? The more I thought about it, the more alarmed I became. I immediately called for someone to help me dress and rushed to my mother-in-law's place. My mother-in-law's courtyard was already brightly lit, with Shen Lingshan kneeling before her. Ruyi, why are you here? The servants weren't around. Presumably my mother-in-law wanted to save face for Shen Lingshan. I also entered the courtyard directly without being stopped. The maids by my side naturally didn't dare watch the young master's embarrassment, and slowly retreated with their heads lowered. Only after everyone had retreated did I speak. Mother, do you also know about what happened in the palace? What happened, my mother-in-law put down the whip and looked at me with a puzzled expression. If mother doesn't know about Consort Li drugging the emperor, then why are you beating my husband? After asking, I realized that it was probably my complaint after returning from the palace that had taken effect. So without waiting for my mother-in-law to ask, I briefly explained the matter about Consort Li and then told her my suspicions as well. After I finished, the two of us, mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, looked at Shen Lingshan together. You unfilial son, hurry up and tell me exactly what herbs you gave that consort Li. Were there any? No. All the herbs I gave Ruyuan were just some medicines for treating miscarriage and nourishing the body. Shen Lingshan was afraid his mother-in-law wouldn't believe him, so he continued to explain. Your son isn't stupid. If a woman just had a miscarriage and you do that thing, wouldn't that harm her body? Your son would never hurt Ruyu. Mother-in-law heard that even now he was still thinking about that vixen, and angrily picked up the whip and lashed it at him again. I breathed a sigh of relief, but suddenly thought of something, and my heart tightened again. Mother, my husband didn't deliver it this time, but what about before? Shen Lingshan hesitated when he saw me asking. No way. It is actually true. What audacity. My gaze fell on the whip in mother-in-law's hand, wishing I could snatch it and whip this man to death. He really was blinded by lust. You wretched thing. Mother-in-law couldn't catch her breath and fainted. I suppressed the fear in my heart, helped mother-in-law into the room, then asked Shen Lingshan what kind of medicine he had actually given. What were its effects? That medicine was prepared by the Imperial Medical Bureau. It doesn't really harm the body, and it is not easy to detect. Idiot, all medicine has some toxicity. Just because you say it doesn't harm the body, means it doesn't. Just because he says it is not easy to detect, means it is not. Is that a ball on your shoulders? Can't you use your brain? I suppressed the urge to curse, closed my eyes and sat in the chair. Shen Lingshan only gave that medicine had already been used by my sister 3 months ago. My sister's previous pregnancy was thanks to that medicine. The Emperor will definitely investigate this matter thoroughly. I just hope the imperial physician, considering how much money Shen Lingshan gave, won't rat out the Marquise's mansion. I don't want to look at that fool Shen Nianshan for another second. I returned to my room and secretly summoned my personal maidservant and Shayun. Looking at Shayun's belly that wasn't showing yet, I felt a bit guilty. That bit of guilt was quickly scared away by the threat of having the entire family executed. I had people find many gold melon seeds and silver ingots. I forcefully grabbed a handful and gave it to them, then took out their indenture contracts. I'll have someone remove your slave status right now. Something might happen to the Marquise's mansion. Shayun, you are a concubine of the mansion, so it is not convenient for you to leave. When the time comes, you all remember to rescue Shayun. After settling everyone, I secretly tucked some inconspicuous but valuable small items like pearls and banknotes into my clothes. I didn't even spare the gaps between my toes. Each one wearing a ring, of course, with the gemstone side facing down. Otherwise, wouldn't I be found out? Only after everything was done did I feel at ease. The old madam has awakened. She requests the madam's presence. Relying on 2 second-rank maidservants, I walked extremely slowly and finally arrived at my mother-in-law's courtyard. How are things going? My mother-in-law anxiously asked the moment she saw me. But how would I know? That is the Imperial Palace. Is that a place I can get information from? The only reason I knew about Consort Li's matter was because the servant boy by Shen Lingshan's side couldn't find anyone else and came to me. Also, mother-in-law probably forgot. Back then, when she checked the accounts, she discovered Shen Lingshan was sending money to the palace. Shen Lingshan lied and said it was me who, because of my deep sisterly bond with Ruyuan, secretly sent it behind the Marquis Manor's back. Mother-in-law was already dissatisfied with me, so she immediately ordered me to cut off contact with the palace. Not only that, I faced many obstacles within the manor. Now you are asking me, how would I know, mother-in-law also remembered this matter and immediately sent people to keep watch at the palace. We waited anxiously like this for a whole night. Then news came from the palace. Lu Ruyuan attempted to harm the imperial heir, drugged his majesty, damaged the dragon body, was demoted to Daying, and thrown into the cold palace. I knew this crisis had passed. Mother-in-law was frightened. And there was also a concubine who was too clever for her own good, wind of something, and scared herself into nearly having a premature birth. At this moment, mother-in-law finally agreed to hand over power to me. I suddenly became busy, but I haven't forgotten about Shen Lingshan. Father sent a letter. When do you think we should send Lingshan over? This troublemaker should leave sooner rather than later. But mother-in-law hesitated at this moment. Ruyi, Lingshan's body hasn't fully recovered yet, and this time really scared him badly. They say you learn from your mistakes. He should be able to recognize his errors. Why don't we wait a bit longer? A doting mother truly spoils her child. I knew that although she was asking for my opinion, she had already made up her mind. I forced a smile and acknowledged. Mother is right. Then let's do as mother says. I originally wanted to send Shen Lingshan to the battlefield and still spare his life. Since mother-in-law kept him, there is no need for me to show mercy anymore. Afterwards, I improved the treatment for the pregnant concubines. Their clothing and allowances were increased, and more maids were assigned to serve them, making those who weren't pregnant extremely envious. Some concubines harbored resentment and wanted to harm them. But I blocked every attempt. At the same time, I also instigated them to compete for favor. After everything was set up, I just waited for them to perform on their own. Unexpectedly, Shen Lingshan recently seemed to have transferred his affections, greatly doting on concubine Yu, who resembled Lu Ruyuan the most. Looking at concubine Yu before me, for a moment I thought I was seeing Lu Ruyuan. I didn't understand why, and just assumed Shen Lingshan had transferred his affection for Lu Ruyuan onto concubine Yu, because it had nearly implicated the Marquise's manner. I was still sighing that men's love was nothing more than this. Even so, I had no intention of letting him off. Madam, Yor is also pregnant now. I think we should elevate her to noble concubine. I stared at him scrutinizingly, wondering what on earth he was up to. He couldn't not know that concubine Yu came from a lowly background. Let alone being a noble concubine, even being a regular concubine was already elevating her. Besides, the other pregnant concubines were only lowly concubines. If she was suddenly elevated so high, how was I supposed to manage them? I said nothing. Lu Ruyi, I am not discussing this with you. I am informing you. I refused to budge, even if it meant making a scene in front of mother-in-law. Fortunately, my mother-in-law deeply despised Lu Ruyuan, and upon seeing concubine Yu who looked so much like Lu Ruyuan, she feared another femme fatale. She would rather have Shen Lingshan sent to the border than agree, and only then was this matter temporarily dropped. Although Shen Lingshan gave up on elevating concubine Yu to noble concubine, he still always had me take her out. I had no choice. I couldn't just stop socializing because of her. When the old matriarch of the Anbo mansion celebrated her 80th birthday, Shen Lingshan personally brought people along with me. When we were seated separately, I had no choice but to bring concubine Yu with me. Ruyi, this concubine following behind you really looks like consort Li. I thought she had come out of the cold palace. What was bound to come always comes. Bainian across from me said this while covering her mouth, laughing apologetically. When she was young, she had once liked Shen Lingshan. Whenever we met, she would always throw a few cold remarks from time to time, and I had long grown used to it. Oh my! Look at me, I misspoke. There is no consort Li anymore now. I looked at her without changing my expression. Yes, since you know you misspoke, why don't you shut your mouth? Bainianan was furious. You are going too far. Oh, too far is too far then. I deflected with ease, and seeing the situation wasn't right. The other madams all tried to mediate. Oh, come on. What is there to argue about over a concubine? Stop talking. You two. Let's watch the play. Right. The civet cat replacing the crown prince is about to start. I heard this is the northern singing style. I really want to listen carefully and see how it differs from the capital. Lying on the bed, reviewing the recent events, I always felt something was off. No. Something's wrong. I suddenly sat up from the bed. I had someone bring paper and pen and wrote down what was off about Shen Lingshan. Has Shen Nianshan really given up on my sister? Why did he suddenly start showering concubine Yu with affection? I could clearly sense that he didn't like concubine Yu, even despised her. The disgust in his eyes, though hidden very deeply, was still discovered by me. For some reason, I suddenly thought of the play about swapping the prince with a civet cat that I watched today, and a chill ran through my heart. No, it can't be. No. I can't just hope for the best. What if it is? I've never been the type to sit and wait for death. Even if this is fake, I still need peace of mind. Of course, I also hope this is fake. The next day, I had a servant whose slave status had been removed. Keep an eye on Shen Lingshan at all times. the young master has been in contact with eunuch Shang from the Cold Palace. The young master has been having fun with the chief eunuch of the imperial presence at Bai Alley, and even sent him beauties. The young master secretly bought abortion medicine. It all connected. Everything made sense now. I stood up and walked towards my mother-in-law's room. Shen Lingshan wants to swap the prince with a civet cat, replacing Lu Ruyuan in the palace with concubine Yu. And then what? Even if Lu Ruyuan and concubine Yu really look alike, it is still impossible to pass off the fake as real. What if someone finds out? What would Shen Lingshan do? He must have a backup plan. Then what would his backup plan be? Slowly my footsteps slowed down until I stopped in the corridor. Madam, I thought I could see through people's hearts. But I didn't expect to misjudge Shen Lingshan. I turned and went to concubine Yu's place. Shen Lingshan flew into a rage and scolded me for having no ability to manage the household. He took concubine Yu to stay at a villa for a while. I had people stop him, not allowing him to leave. Who knew the courtyard would be surrounded by people instead? Just like that, I was put under house arrest and couldn't get out. I secretly thought this was bad and tried to send someone to notify my mother-in-law. Who would have thought that even the maids in the courtyard couldn't get out? In this confrontation with Shen Lingshan, I am currently at a slight disadvantage. But it doesn't matter. It is not yet time for a total loss. As long as Shen Lingshan dares to let me live, I still have hope. That night, a fire suddenly broke out in the Cold Palace, burning to death 3 palace maids and consort Li, who had been banished to the Cold Palace shortly after her miscarriage. I knew it. Shen Lingshan still got my sister out of the Cold Palace. It is just a pity about concubine Yu. Me mother-in-law sensed something was wrong the next afternoon. She sent people to rescue me. Tell me, what exactly is going on? What is that rebellious son Shen Lingshan trying to do now? Making such a scene. Me mother-in-law leaned against the couch. Even though she looked listless, the aura she carried made me involuntarily lower my head. I didn't believe my mother-in-law could bring herself to harm Shen Lingshan. At most, she would just send him to the battlefield. But what could that change? Now, Shen Lingshan has taken Lu Ruyuan, this hot potato, out of the Cold Palace. If those two don't die, sooner or later, something will happen to the Marquis Manor. I don't believe this secret can be kept hidden for a lifetime. I lowered my head in silence while my mother-in-law rubbed her head. Why aren't you saying anything? You had the guts to make a move on Lingshan. So what could you possibly be afraid of or not dare to say? Me mother-in-law's words made me tremble with fear, and I suddenly raised my head to look at her. What are you saying? I am deeply devoted to my husband. My mother-in-law waved her hand. But there was no trace of resentment. Only a dejected helplessness over the situation. Enough, you don't need to make excuses. Nothing that happens in this Marquis Manor escapes my eyes if I want to know about it. Those incompatible foods in the small kitchen and those tonics. Are they really good for Lingshan's health? And those potent aphrodisiacs for those concubines. It wouldn't be hard for me to investigate if I wanted to. Since she had spelled it out so clearly, I didn't deny it anymore. Over these 5 years, I could tell from the way you've cared for Lingshan that you truly wanted to live a good life with him. You've endured for 5 years, so why couldn't you hold on any more recently? I knew there were many clever people, but I never expected my mother-in-law to know my every move like the back of her hand. So I stopped hiding it and dropped to my knees with a thud. Shen Lingshan called out my sister's name when he was drunk before. And now he even wants my sister to replace concubine Yu and stay in the Marquis Manor. It was for the sake of the Marquis Manor that I had no choice but to. What I wouldn't say was that, when I married Shen Lingshan, I had decided to give him 5 years to forget my sister. But he ended up disappointing me. His affection is truly too much of a disaster. Killing him without anyone knowing is the safest option. The facts proved that I was right. My mother-in-law's hands trembled, in disbelief. What did you say? Someone Bring the young lord and concubine Yu back. I stayed quiet like a quail, not saying a word, afraid my mother-in-law would remember that I had tried to poison Shen Lingshan. A maid snuck in and whispered in my ear. After hearing it, I had no choice but to speak up. Mother, people from the Bai family are also following the young lord. Who knows how much they know? Also, the young lord has been in close contact with eunuch Zhang from the Cold Palace recently. There is no guarantee someone hasn't noticed something suspicious. My mother-in-law's head was spinning from all this, wishing she had never given birth to this rebellious son. For a moment, she even wished I had poisoned this lust-addled fool. Shen Lingshan and Lu Ruyuan were quickly caught and brought back. Me mother-in-law, still holding onto a sliver of hope, went to take a look. Although Lu Ruyuan tried her best to act like concubine Yu, but in the end, the pride of a legitimate daughter ingrained in her bones, and the 5 years of palace etiquette carved into her flesh and blood, were hard to erase. My mother-in-law saw through it at a glance. My mother-in-law slapped Shen Lingshan across the face. Then she turned her gaze to Lu Ruyuan. And just from that one look, Shen Lingshan stood between them as if facing a great enemy. Mother, all the wrongs are my fault. I fake cough fei. Shen Lingshan's body was still ruined by me. No, I should say it was ruined by those concubines I took in. Back then, the imperial physician had warned him not to engage in too much bedroom activity. But to make sure his plans went smoothly, he resorted to those potent aphrodisiacs. Add to that, the foods I casually had the small kitchen prepare that counteracted each other, plus the tonics meant to nourish his body. His lifespan plummeted. If the incident of Lu Ruyuan being banished to the Cold Palace hadn't happened, I wouldn't have sped up my actions. Given a few more years, my schemes would probably have succeeded. What a pity. Such is timing. Such is fate. My mother-in-law was utterly disappointed in Shen Lingshan. She knew that for the sake of the Marquis Manor, this son of hers could no longer be kept. She glared viciously at Lu Ruyuan. It was all this woman she had ruined her son. I could tell. The way she looked at Lu Ruyuan now, she wished she could slice her into 1,000 pieces. I'll take her to the battlefield and never return. I can even take her into hiding under false names. Please, mother, grant us this. My mother-in-law, furious, ordered the servants. Summoning, come, drag this seductive vixen away. Slash her face. Beat her to death with rods, and throw her into the mass grave. Lu Ruyuan obviously didn't expect this old hag would treat her like this. She stood up, just about to open her mouth to curse, when someone covered her mouth and dragged her away. When Lu Ruyuan first started being beaten, she was still making muffled protests. Then she became scared and wanted to beg for mercy. But her mouth was covered the whole time. Even at the moment of her death, she refused to believe that after being reborn, she would end up like this. Even a vicious tiger won't eat its cubs. Mother-in-law's heart still wasn't hard enough. She only had people clean up after Shen Lingshan and confined me to my quarters. I had no objection to this. As long as I remained the Marquis Manor's young madam, mother-in-law was also there. Lingshan, you treat the mother who gave birth to you and raised you like this for that woman. Mother-in-law's voice was hoarse, heartbroken beyond measure. I entered the room. Shen Lingshan saw me and sat up, glaring at me with hatred. Unfortunately, he could no longer get out of bed now, and couldn't do anything. He could only hurt himself, making loved ones grieve and enemies rejoice. I was naturally the latter. I am going to kill you. It is all because of you that Ruyuan went to the palace for the selection. He was gasping for breath, speaking without restraint. Fortunately, when mother-in-law was crying earlier, all the servants had withdrawn. I had already prepared everything, but you just had to fall for me and refuse to enter the palace. Ruyuan was afraid the Lu family would be punished, so she entered the palace in your place. You are the one who deserves to die. What kind of person I am. The mother and son now knew. I no longer needed to pretend to be deeply in love with Shen Lingshan. I shed my submissive demeanor, raised my head, and let out a deranged laugh. She told you that, didn't she? I walked closer to him, looking at Shen Lingshan, my eyes full of mockery. Whether you believe it or not, she was the one who wanted to enter the palace back then. You don't really think that I, a lowly, illegitimate daughter without a birth mother, could sway my father's decision, do you? You begged her. You are not trying to say that Lu Ruyan gave up her marriage with you and entered the palace because of sisterly affection. Shen Lingshan really had the nerve to say that. Listen to this. Does it even make sense? What is wrong? Shen Lingshan didn't think anything was off. Perhaps he had doubts before. But after telling the lies so many times, even he believed them himself. Let me ask you, if third brother begged you to give him the heir position of the Marquis Manor, and have you go earn military merits on the battlefield yourself, would you be willing? In the Marquis Manor, aside from Shen Lingshan, all the other 5 illegitimate sons were on the battlefield with the Marquis. The third brother I mentioned was in a similar situation to mine, also without a birth mother. I heard he had a good relationship with Shen Lingshan. Shen Lingshan answered without even thinking. Why should I? He had nothing more to say. Mother-in-law knew the situation of the Lu family. She closed her eyes and didn't look at Shen Lingshan. So stupid. Shen Lingshan had been played like a fool by Lu Ruyuan. At this moment she even looked at me with a hint of relief. The Court of Judicial Review found out that Shen Lingshan had secretly contacted the imperial physician. Fortunately, Lu Ruyuan was dead, and Shen Lingshan looked like he didn't have long to live anyway, so everything seemed explainable, and they didn't investigate further. Both mother-in-law and Shen Lingshan's health quickly deteriorated. In the following winter, she completely withered away. The two of them passed away one right after the other. My mother-in-law always held a grudge about what I did to Shen Lingshan. She wanted to get rid of me, even wanted to take me down with her. Too bad she got sick earlier and let me manage the household, missing her chance. The Marquise had to guard the border and didn't come back. Shayan gave birth to a boy, registered under my name, and I petitioned for him to be named the heir. As for the other 3 boys and 2 girls, I didn't mistreat them either. 8 concubines surrounded me every day, racking their brains to please me for the sake of their future. Looking at these beauties, I felt delighted. Not to mention, these were the ones I took a liking to before bringing them into the manor. My reputation improved too. I am now the model of noble ladies in the capital. Who doesn't praise me as virtuous and capable? Such days are truly carefree like an immortal. My painstaking scheming was not in vain.